Hello.
Hello. Introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Peesh, and I play and sing guitar, vocals in Logoz, Cherry Peesh, and Monkey's Blood, and my solo set as well. I'm busy,
I
which is
know
good.
you are.
I like to be very busy.
I know you are. You're probably the busiest person on the circuit.
A lot of people say that, and I think that's great because to me it just seems normal. I don't seem like I'm. It's only when I look back and think what I've done this year, I think, yeah, maybe I am busier than ever, but you just roll with what comes. You know what I mean? And there's so many offers from all the different projects. I don't like to say no very much. You know, I've got to learn how to say no. I think in the future, just you don't want to overload yourself either. Because we've all got lives and stuff and work and things like that. But you need that creative outlet, and I'd be lost without it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know how you do it all because you work as well, don't you?
So yeah, I work for Royal Mail by day, and it's coming up to a very busy time of year now. So the pressure's on. Early starts, later finishes, but still need that music, to keep it going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is all I've done. For so many years. I was in bands from when I was like 14, 15, playing the drums first. That was my first musical instrument. I played drums from when I was 14, 15 till I was about mid 20s.
Yeah.
And that just wasn't enough. I just felt like I had something more to give. As people used to say, oh, yeah, typical frustrated drummer wants to be seen at the front. But I knew I had something more inside, you know what I mean? A more creative, sort of this surge inside me wanted to write stuff. I started writing lyrics first, and then by my mid 20s, I bought some software, some old Atari ST software, and I was doing sequencing music. I sort of programmed sequencing drums with a sound module and things like that, and adding guitars to that. So it was really early stuff. That was the first sort of stuff I saw writing. I had an acoustic guitar as well. I was just experimenting with my own stuff. I was sick of playing drums, so I wasn't getting anywhere. I've been in a few good bands, and played Newcastle Riverside and stuff, doing my original stuff, and it was good, but it was a different world then. You didn't have any internet. You didn't have many communications, around the country and stuff. So it was just the world was smaller then. Do you know what I mean? Because I live in Ashton, which is in Northumberland, 20 miles north of Newcastle. So that's all we knew, the northeast scene. But once I started writing my own stuff, maybe early 2000s, when the internet sort of landed, and I
Yeah.
started speaking to people around the country, I thought, oh wow, this is the world, such a bigger place, and you can send your stuff away. That's how I started myself. I started my own project called Jumpstart, which went on to be my first band ever. And I've done home demos myself and sent it away to record companies and got some good feedback. Said, yeah, you got something here, work at it. So that gave me even more encouragement to think, wow, maybe I can do this. And then I formed my first band, and that was 2003. That was my first gig. So I was nearly 30 years old by the time I sang and played guitar in front of an audience. So I was quite late coming into it, really. I hadn't played guitar as a kid and always wanted to be a singer or anything. It wasn't like that. It came pretty late. I'm getting more creative as I get older, which is quite strange. You think, oh, I've run out of things to say. But I mean, the world we live in now, Jesus, you've got so much to write about or complain about or comment on.
I went into your band camp and you've got like there's a big wall of like your solo stuff and
Yeah, I
you've got
haven't even got all the solo stuff up there yet. There's still things lying around. I've got demos and side projects and things which never saw the light of day and everything like that. God, I'm amazing myself. Something I look back and where'd that come from?
yeah.
But I'm grateful for it, and I just think I don't really think about it too much. I think that's the best. I don't sit down and go, right, I'm gonna write a song. It just happens, and then I record it and nip down to my mom's 3 doors down and demo it really quickly. So
Yeah.
that's pretty handy as well, always to have on hand, like a little studio, so I can always bash stuff out, at any time, really.
But you know what? I think that's the way when you're creative, you've always got, there's so much that people don't see that you do. You only put,
Oh
it's
yeah,
also almost like you've only put a fraction out. So if I see all
true.
this stuff from you, there must be so much more. There's be so much
Exactly.
more in you.
I always think that myself, about how much goes on behind the scenes, which people don't see. And when you put out as much stuff as I do, because I just put up my news
I
solo
saw
single last
that.
night, the
Yeah.
Horrors of Love, and you know, you, people just go, oh bang, oh there's another song. But as a lot of people, and you yourself, you play in bands, you go away, you sit, you write the lyrics, you record it, you mix it, you master it, you edit it, you think about it, you do a video, then you put it out. You know that there's a lot goes into it. I write with Bev, which is a completely different um, entity altogether. Writing with Bev, because that's something I've never really done before. I had a project about 15 years ago with my mate who was in Logos, Paul. We had a band, a side project called Crackdown, where I was singing and playing drums at the time, and he was playing guitar. So that was me. We were writing stuff together, but he's a mate, so that came easy because we're friends. But with Bev, it was a bit more intense because we were strangers. We only met 10 years ago. Next year, it's 10 years ago. We got introduced by a mutual friend, Marcia, who used to be the singer in the band for disease control and prevention. She introduced us. Marcia said, "This is my friend Bev, who's a punk poet," and I was like, "Oh, I love punk poetry. John Cooper Clarke and all that." Then we just got chatting, we became friends, and then it was Bev's idea to start and write together. She said, "Do you fancy putting some music to my poetry?" And I thought, well, that's a bit weird. That's, because there's not, I'd never really heard much. I know John Cooper Clarke had done it, and there's a lot of spoken word acts now, but then it wasn't really something I was interested in. But she convinced me to start writing some music, and it worked, and it just took off. And we got offered the Rebellion Festival when we only had about 2 songs, So we'd only done about 3 gigs because we're still doing part poetry, part my acoustic, and a couple of our own songs. And then Rebellion said, "Yeah, you're on the acoustic stage." And we were like, "Shit, we really need to write a proper set now." Really good. And then that kind of took off from there. So that kind of was an accident almost. It wasn't a plan. Let's do this. It was just one of Bev's. Because Bev has a lot of crazy ideas. Cherry B, she says, "Yeah, let's do it." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So I thought I just want another one of them, but I like to be proved wrong as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in, and I look forward to our next gig, which is this weekend. We're going to be doing. Cherry and Peesh are playing at the Undercover Festival in Essex.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that. I'm sure you'll be there.
Yeah. Have you done an undercover festival before?
I haven't actually. No. They've got some big acts on, haven't they? The Skids up playing, and there's the Headsticks as well, maybe, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's some good. We're on one of it's acoustic-ish tent, I think it's called. So I think it's not just acoustic. There's a little bit more can go into that. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, on Saturday.
So what other gigs have you got apart from this Saturday? What else have you got coming up? Because you'll have something come up. I'm actually convinced I'm going to come home one day and you're going to be playing a gig in my living room.
Well, stranger things have happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We were going to actually do that a few years ago, just after lockdown. But then doing gigs in people's living rooms. Just offering your services absolutely everywhere. But I think I play enough as it is. But Monkey's Blood have another gig in Sunderland on October the 24th at Diego's. And then the day after that, Saturday, Logos have got a gig at the Blackburn Gateshead. And then me and Paul are doing an electroacoustic Logos gig in Gateshead again, Station East, on the 8th of November. And then we got a few in December. Again, we've got a hometown gig, Ashton. So we very rarely play our hometown because there's just no scene here anymore. There's the venues closed down, and it's just such a shame. Because there's plenty of musicians there, but there's not really a scene as such. So we're playing a little gig in December, the 6th. And then on the 7th of December, the day after, I've got my last Monkey's Blood one of the year at Museum Vaults in Sunderland. I'm surprised I remembered that off the top of my head, actually.
Are you doing any gigs for Lou Moon? Because I know she was going to message you.
We spoke. Lou spoke about, I think the weekend was the only weekend we could make it, that it worked out was we already had a gig. Now, I've already turned down a gig again today because I've already got a gig somewhere else. And this is what happens as well. Sometimes you think, I want more gigs, and then you've got a gig and you get offered one on the same day, but that's what happens. But in a way, that's a good thing, you know what I mean? People are still asking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because sometimes I think, because I think I've travelled this year so much more than ever. Sometimes, it takes a toll when you're working as well, and you think, God, I'm absolutely knackered, but as long as I still love it and people want it and you enjoy it, that's the main thing, I just think, there's just such a buzz about it. Yeah. And as long as that buzz is still there, I'll just keep doing it as long as I can. Where we are at and all my bands and stuff, it's very hard. And we're not thinking about it for the money, but it's just harder than ever was. It's really weird because I think if a, if there's such a thing, there's almost a gig overkill. There's tons of stuff on. There's a lot of big festivals and a lot of big bands doing their own big mini festivals, and people are saving the money for that. And the smaller festivals, and a few of them have had to cancel because of poor ticket sales. Or I mean, we've had a few gigs this year where the promoter said, "I can't take the hit if he hasn't got enough pre-ticket sales." You know, where we always think, "Oh, just go on, it'll be all right on the night. People pay on the day." And he said, people say they can't take that hit. They
Yeah.
need the money up front guaranteed. And I understand that, but it's just a shame because it's disappointing for everyone, for the promoters and for the bands and people. Oh, they say I was going to come to that, but
Yeah.
if no one buys a ticket. But you know how much it is for big stadium gigs now when people are traveling and staying overnight and £100 a ticket and £10 of drinking. It's everything's changed. I think, and well, since COVID, I think
Oh,
that changed.
definitely. It's got
That
terrible
changed
since
a lot of
COVID.
things. Yeah, I mean, I used to go to a lot of gigs. I don't go to lots of gigs now. I play more than what I go to, which I kind of prefer doing. So it has to be something pretty special for me to want to go to a gig these days.
Yeah, no,
I
I
don't,
totally get
as
that.
long as I can afford it.
Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, I've been a little bit like that since I had my kids, and I had to I needed, like the childcare for like the gigs and recording and stuff like that. So I always had to have a balance. But yeah,
Yeah,
since COVID, it's got a bit. It's just,
yeah. Is it like we went on a different sort of axis now, the ulterior universe now? Or things feel a bit strange. I never thought we'd get back to normal, to be honest. At one point, especially with gigs with hundreds and hundreds of people there. I thought we'd done that. It was weird. Because I was doing live streams every week. I did about 60 odd live streams. Like every Friday, I'd done a live stream,
I think
which
we.
kept me going. It kept me sane because well, no one was allowed to practice with a band. So I was doing a different set every week. I was digging out old songs, really. I was doing some covers. I was writing new stuff. So really, that was my focus. I was still allowed to go to work as well, which I was very grateful for. So my life was not normal, but I was able to get up for work, come in, then write songs with a purpose for a performance at the end of the week. You know what I mean? So I was able to have that focus every week. And for me, I almost enjoyed lockdown. It was weird. I know a lot of people really struggled, like really struggled, with their mental health and so. And I get that because it was a weird, weird time. We've never experienced anything like that in our life, in our lifetime.
No, yeah.
But like, so I feel like I just had to try and be positive about it. I know a lot of musicians were frustrated or didn't want to do live streams. Oh, look, shit, it sounds rubbish. But I just used my phone, turned my phone, and I just played, and people watched and people loved it. I mean, there was a nice little community of friends and followers, and people still mentioned, now we've got, oh, it was great during lockdown. Well, thank you for that. And I mean, a lot of people were doing them as well, and I thought it was brilliant just to watch other people's. And people were doing quizzes and things like that to help. Like Fiona and Roy did a quiz most weeks as well, things like that. It was just such a different time. But if you're creative, I think you'll find a way,
Yeah.
even the worst times. Maybe when you're feeling terrible, something that often seem to write, like you write really dark stuff, but it gets it off your chest. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of helps. So that's why I feel something. Oh wow, it's nice that my mind works that way. That I can turn something really bad into something quite positive. I mean, I was saying that at the start of this year, and then this year we've done the most travelling. We've been all over Scotland, London, Manchester, Nottingham, Leeds. We've been everywhere. But that buzz is still there. So as long as that's still there, then
Yeah.
as yourself, you play in bands, you play that many places up and down the country, you kind of forget. Some of them change names as well or shut down, and then there's a new venue replaces it. But there's always, like I said, there's always plenty of places to play. A lot of other people in bands ask me, how do you get these gigs? How do you get that gig? Well, you've just got to ask sometimes. Don't be frightened to ask. And when you play up and down the country, you meet new people, you meet new bands,
Yeah.
promoters and stuff. So you become friends with them and follow them and see what gigs they're putting on. There's plenty out there for everyone to keep busy if you just look and work at it.
Yeah. If you ask. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Definitely.
I think I used to be frightened to ask at one point, but I think, hey, God, why not? You know. But the beauty of now is because I do so much, I get asked a lot. Can you do this? Will you be able to make this? Which is brilliant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So instead of me having to search and draw for stuff, you just get asked. Yeah, I either say yes, I can do it, or no, I'm already playing. That seems to be the usual response now, but it's brilliant, and I'm grateful as well, though. I mean, because we've all worked hard in all these bands, and a lot of bands. I've met some great people as well, really great, hard-working bands. There's a lot of great bands out there, and you think, Christ,
Yeah.
there's some really good, there's some great talent out there, and people are just doing it like me. You know, we aren't doing it for a living. You know, we've all got jobs, but that's some great bands. And that's what I love about, social media. Social media can be a nightmare at times as well. But if you're using it in the right way, like, or the way I like to use it, which is mainly solely for to promote the music, um, you're on about circles. Like, my circle's massive now, of people. And when I talk about my first band, when we were just gigging the odd gig in Newcastle, one gig every 2 or 3 months, we didn't know anybody around the country. But even when I did a tour with Jumpstart, we went to Norway actually in 2005, 20 years ago. We had a manager then. He's a comedian now, actually. It's quite funny. Just one liner, stuff like Tin Vine. It's quite funny. But anyway, and then I booked a UK tour for Jumpstart. We just went round the country in a van in 2006. And I booked all my gigs through MySpace. Can you remember MySpace?
Yeah, I do.
That was the big social media thing. So I followed a load of venues. So we did like Swindon, Accrington, London. We played the 12 bar in London as our sort of final night. Newcastle. So it was much harder then. That was it was in its infancy, and there wasn't a Facebook then. I don't think. It was MySpace, and that's how I
Yeah.
booked the whole tour through MySpace.
God,
It was
we
just a
did
smaller
that.
world.
I did that 20 years ago. The band I was in. I'm not going to talk about it. It was supposed to be a girl band, but I ended up with two girls and a drummer. And I played guitar and sang. And then we did a
Wow.
similar thing. We just got random venues up and down the country and found other bands to play with through MySpace. Yeah, it was fun.
That is that is proper punk rock DIY. We loved it. We got splitter van as well, so we just kept in the back of it all. Yeah, it was brilliant. I don't know if I do it now, 20 years later. I'm not sure if I could do a week in a van now, like, but hey, you never know. You never know.
So tell us what it was like to grow up in Northumberland.
Growing up in Northumberland, I loved it. I mean, I'm still here. This is the house I wasn't born in. I was born actually in hospital, but I grew up in this house here. And then I moved three doors along 24 years ago. But growing up, there was a lot of football, music. See, my parents were very musical. And my mum was into the sort of the pop music of sort of the Beatles and the Kinks and the Monkeys. And my dad liked Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, Motorhead, Sex Pistols. So I had a mix of the heavy stuff and the melodic stuff. So music was all around the house. Music and football was a big thing growing up. Until I was about 14, I was going to be a professional footballer, like we all were, but that didn't happen. Then I got some drums. I was going to be a famous drummer. So, but I was always encouraged, to be into music, and I enjoyed school. I mean, I've got some great friends. I've still got a lot of friends who I grew up in school with. It's very close knit. I mean, actually, it's changing now. The world's changing. It's a different place, of course, to what it was in the 80s or whatever. But I still love the place. I'm still here. I like to come, and I like to go away and travel, but it's nice to come back home as well. But it was
Yeah.
it was great growing up. I had a brilliant childhood, and my parents and my younger brother as well. So who isn't in bands? He likes bands, but he's not musical. He actually got a guitar first. He was going to be a guitarist. I was like, I want an instrument as well. And I thought, but he didn't have the dedication. But once I got the drums, I just stuck at it because everyone else wanted to play guitar. And I thought, right, I'll get drums. No one wants the drums. I get the drums. And if I'm going to get somewhere, I want to do it properly. You know what I mean? I want it to be the best at it. And I've got my little sort of electronic drum set up here, which I physically play. So when I put my solo stuff out, that's me playing the drums on them. So I still keep my hand in every now and again.
Yeah.
But yeah, Northumberland was great. I mean, it was quite strange because I was at school when the miners' strike was on, and I had a lot of friends who had dads who were miners. So that was a funny time. But I was quite young, so I didn't really. I was only like 10 or 11, so I didn't really understand. But I know looking back, when you see documentaries, that was a tough time because this was a massive mining village. Actually, it was the biggest mining village in the world at the turn of the 20th century. So it was massive. So once that was all knackered, there was a lot of job losses and things like that. So it was probably like a rough, tough time. But when you were a kid, you know, this was my world. Your world was smaller, like I was saying. When you're younger, it's all you know. So if you think, oh, this is all my world is, you know.
Yeah, because I was a kid in the 80s as well, and I remember stuff. I remember like watching Arthur Scargill on the TV with
Yeah, yeah,
his hair flying about.
yeah. I remember all that. Yeah, there was, yeah,
It's for us because I'm from Bradford, and it was all like textile mills and engineering, and that all went during that
exactly.
time, and we had
Yeah.
like collieries near us as well. And I remember like the co-op near us, you'd have like miners like, saying like asking for donations for like,
Hmm.
food and things like that. So I remember that. But I was only little, you know.
Yeah, I think about it's only when as I've watched a lot of sort of documentaries about the minor stuff, especially because that struck a big hold in me. Knowing a lot of families who went through that, it's only when you're older you realise how bad, how tough times they went through. I mean, fortunately, my mum and dad's worked in factories and things, and they held on to jobs very well, and we never went without. Whereas I know a lot of friends who did go without, unfortunately, and really struggled. But I guess you aren't thinking about them problems when you're 10 or 11. You're just watching Top the Pops and, want to go out and play football or get a guitar. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I used to like
Every,
Top of the
but
Pops when I was growing up.
Thursday night Top the Pops, I always wanted to be on, everyone wanted to be on Top the
Yeah.
Pops. Everyone, of course they did.
Did you tape it off the radio?
Yeah, of course, and trying to get the DJ talking. Oh, it's fun. Used to listen to Top 40 and that on Sundays when I was going to Sundays it came on. It was, see, I missed that excitement of being younger and the old world. I like the old world where you had to search for things and I brought up with a lot of rock music. I used to listen to Friday Rock Show on Radio 1. It was a specialist one night a week. You got 2 hours of rock and metal and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like, especially you had to find it. You had to work hard at it. And I kind of missed that and waiting for new releases, like LPs to come out. I used to miss that. But now the new track's out and there's someone's ripped it and they put it up on YouTube and every I think you get everything more instantly and now there's something that's good. You think, oh yeah, because I would rather listen to it before I bought it. But I miss the excitement of going to record shops and
Yeah.
buying stuff because that was very 80s, getting videos and things like that. Because I've got quite a few nostalgic songs about that one. Because in 2015 I did this project. When I was just saying I haven't put all my songs up, I did 52 songs in 52 weeks, acoustic songs. I call it acoustic calendar. So I wrote and recorded one every week for 52 weeks. So for subject matters, I was delving quite a lot in the past. So there's a lot of songs about growing up in the 80s in there, about going to school, I've got something called Kids TV, which basically just rhymes off about 50 kids television programs, which we used to watch, and the Wombles and that, Button Moon and things like that.
Number
So
73.
number 73. I didn't mention that one in there, but yes, I do remember number 73. That was a Saturday morning one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But it's always good, to have that background of them days growing up because there's so much material still to draw from, which I like to do. I don't say I just think about this. I'm not just sing about politics or about Britain. I like to look back in the past, especially with my solo stuff, because I've got more freedom to do that then. I can sing about anything.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with a band, maybe it's a bit more, not one dimensional, but I think you're channeling it in a certain direction with a band. I think anyway, and a lot of social comment in my Monkey's Blood and logo stuff about what's happening now. But when I go to my solo stuff, I think I can be a bit more reflective in that. And
Yeah, you've got some dark
the
stuff
past,
there, but you've got dark
yeah,
stuff to like quite. It sounds quite happy. It's almost like I try to think of the words. It oxymoron, where it's like it sounds quite
yeah.
happy. But when you're actually listening to it, you're like, hang on, those lyrics are a bit dark.
I think that's a good analysis. Yeah, because my mum will often say, "Oh, I love that tune. It's lovely." Again, yeah, mum, but you read the lyrics, you know? Oh, well, yeah, sort of. But I quite like that because you know, people may miss it as well. You know, they would say, "Oh, that's a great tune," and I think, but that's good if you get a good tune with a heavy lyric. Heavy lyric, I think that's a brilliant kind of contrast. You know what I mean? And I like that, and I think yeah, it is something I do quite a lot. I think I don't even do it on purpose now. I think it just seems to happen because I am quite happy and sort of positive. But I know again, I did an EP of serial killers making monsters a few years ago, and people are saying, "Are you all right? Are you sure?" Like, yes. I'm good. You know, I worry about you. People say, "I'm like, no, man, I'm not. I'm not looking for. I'm not looking for ideas of how to do it. I just, we're all fascinated with the sort of macabreness of it, aren't we? Like, it's like, how can people do that? I watch too many of them, to be honest. But it's hard. It's not like I enjoy it. You know what I mean? I don't enjoy when hearing about these awful things. But you just think, wow,
Yeah, I know.
how can, how did someone really do that?
I'm just really fascinated with like the forensics and like how they've used
Yeah,
technology to capture these serial killers from the past, and really interested.
there's some really dark stuff out there,
It
But
is. It does get you. You just think, God, somebody next door could be, get a new
that's
patio. What's going on
that's
there?
you know what I mean. That is the weirdness of it. You just don't know, and that's because that's what often happens with these. A lot of the British serial killers as well. These people next door, and you think, Jesus, who
Yeah,
knows who's out there? But again, again, I sort of also do that in my solo stuff, where I can really branch out to completely different stuff. Probably as dark as it'll ever get, what I mean? But it's nice just to sing about different stuff. I
yeah,
never want to just be sort of, oh, I just want this, and I just want it to be about this because I never have like a blank canvas. I never go right. I've always got tons of ideas scattered about. Before I came over here, I've just wrote a new idea. And I'll just put a little melody to it and record it on my phone. So there's always bits flying around all the time. And I'm never sitting with like, right, I've got nothing. There's never anything like that.
yeah,
There's always tons of little bits, riffs, lyrics. Sometimes I just get a title. Right, I've got a title. So my writing process is never the same ever. It's always different. It might start with a title, might start with a line, might start with a lyric, a hook, a word. You know what I mean? A sentence, serial killer. I don't. It's just it's always different, and that's what's still exciting because I think God, I never know what's coming next. I might write the best song I've ever written tomorrow, but I might write a lot of shit as well because not everything gets used. Sometimes I think
yeah,
that's crap, and I tend not to spend too long on it either. If it's not working, I'll just ditch it. And I've got no qualms about that. I don't want to work and work for like hours and hours and hours. If something isn't just quite fitting into place, I'll just ditch that. Next, you know what I mean, and try something
yeah,
new. So I like that. So I don't fall in love with it too much. You know what I mean? Or get upset by it, or get down. Oh, I'm rubbish. I can't do it anymore. But I never ever have like writer's block or anything. I'm touch wood, Jesus, touch my drumstick. Um, Never had writer's block. Sometimes I'm not finished stuff, I'll just leave it. Right, so I've always got that. It's like safety net.
yeah,
I might just subconsciously do that so I don't run out of stuff. Maybe that's just me in the back of my mind thinking, oh, be careful. Don't put too much out there. You might just go, shit, what have I got left? But I'm pretty confident that I'll just keep going. You know what I mean, and as long as I'm enjoying it, and you know, as long as I'm enjoying it, that's the main thing. When other people enjoy it, that blows me away. I got some great comments last night, and I said like about 1,000 views on Facebook, and I think, wow, that's great.
yeah. Was
So
that
that
for
that
was
makes
that
me
for
happy.
was that for the new release? Because I thought that was is that the
Yeah, just like I just put the video on Facebook last night. It was nearly 1,000 views when I looked this afternoon.
nice?
So that's great. So people watch. That's all I want, people to be interested in it and enjoy it.
Yeah,
And if they want to, they can even buy it if they want to.
yeah.
Or quid.
I know. I was looking at Bandcamp today, and I feel really guilty because I feel really bad buying something for £1 because it's stuff's worth more than £1, isn't it?
And I know what you're saying. I mean, the funny thing is, you can get like 1,000 views, and then, you know, what happens if 1,000 people bought it, that would be great. But it doesn't
Yeah.
usually happen that way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good
But
point. That say if those 1,000 people bought like something
even if
for a pound.
half the people bought it, you'd be like, wow. But but I mean, it is easy now. We live in a world where you can just click watch stream. That's good. Like that, thumbs up, great. Move on. I mean, we live in this kind of disposable one
Yeah.
click world, don't we? Everything's just moved on very quickly, which is great. But a part of that is a bit of a shame. But I think that's what makes everything go faster now. You know what I mean? I don't think we're slowed down enough to enjoy things. There's always looking for the next thing. There's always something more going on.
Yeah.
But I am grateful that we have these platforms to do this.
Yeah. I mean, like, what,
Like,
15, 20 years ago, we wouldn't be doing this, would we?
exactly.
Probably wouldn't
It
even
won't
know
happen.
each other.
Exactly. And out and
Wouldn't,
talk in the same, room hundreds of miles away.
I know, we might have, like, maybe a comment on, what's it, MySpace, if you were lucky, but otherwise, it just wouldn't be happening, would
Exactly.
it?
So it's great to use these modern tools like in this positive way to put stuff out, talk, and put videos out. Because that's some great software where you can do videos at home. It's brilliant. And
Yeah.
again, that's like you were saying. So as people don't realize that the work what goes in the background of we all doing these things. A lot of time is spent on it for a 2 minute song.
Yeah.
That's hours and hours of work.
Oh,
Bang,
yeah.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I first started doing it, it came quite easy. Well, not easy. I just thought it came natural in a way. So I didn't force it. I just started writing simple stuff because, I mean, my favorite band are the Wildhearts. That's my favorite band of all time. But when I was starting to play guitar, their stuff was too complicated for me to play. I was like, oh, it's too many complex riffs. So, because I was just learning the guitar, so I was listening to Green Day a lot in the mid '90s, and that was Green Day probably a big influence on me first picking up a guitar, and because I like Billy Joe's style, and I know a lot of like hardcore punks don't like Green Day and think they're rubbish, but I think they're great. Personally, that's just my opinion. We've all got opinions on different bands. No one's right, no one's wrong, but I liked his style, and I liked the way that the chords were played. They made it sound simple. They made it sound like I could do that. The way like the Sex Pistols is quite, it's not really complicated stuff. Ramones. So when I started playing guitar, that's what I was listening to: Green Day, Sex Pistols, Ramones, Misfits. So it was a mix, stiff little thing like Buzzcocks. I like the British stuff, but I also like the American stuff as well. So when I started writing it, probably the first stuff. And people say it now as well. Oh, do you like you've got a bit of Green Day, but I like to think we're moving away from that now because a lot of the newer stuff is a bit more complicated. Once I've learned how to play a little bit more, but I think the early stuff and the foundations of me writing songs was really in that 3 chord bracket of like punk, like power punk and stuff. That's
Yeah.
what helped me get it off the ground anyway. So that once I've started, I've written a few songs. I'm flying, and that's what happens. So I've written ever since. I've been writing songs for 20 or God, that's scary thinking that really. Just over 20 years.
I'll try not to think about time anymore.
I've got
I
a
really
shot level.
can't. I
That's
can't
what I
do
have to
it.
realise.
Could be worse. Some people don't make it. God, I'm going dark now.
Yeah, that is not. Yeah, Bev always says that. Isn't it great getting old? Because I'm always whinging about getting old. I'm like, Jesus, where's the time going? She says, yeah, but it's a privilege. Enjoy it,
Yeah,
embrace it.
yeah.
And we're not going to live forever, but we'll have a good try.
Yeah. So what's your favourite lineup of the Wildhearts?
Okay, Elena, it'll probably be everyone says the classic Wildhearts lineup, which is Ginger, CJ, Danny, and Rich on drums, which was the main, that was the main lineup from the mid '90s. That. Everyone loved that lineup. There was something special about them four. And when they got back together in 2017, and they released Renaissance Man in 2019, when they got Danny back in the band on bass. So it was again back to the famous four, the big four, and but there's too many complex personalities in that band. There's a lot, and obviously we played with Danny McCormack's band a few weeks ago at Trillions, so it was good to see him again. Because I was going to be in a band with Danny just before COVID, he asked me to be in his new band, and we started writing some songs together. But obviously, once COVID hit, that just went I just went nowhere because obviously we didn't get out for 2 years or something nearly, didn't we? Then that just faded away and the Wildhearts split up again and it all got a bit messy. But yeah, that's my main favourite band, the Wildhearts. It's the band I've seen the most. They're my biggest inspiration. So when I tell people I've supported my favourite band, that is hand on heart, that's my favourite band. So I just feel so proud that we supported them.
Yeah.
And my son was playing bass that night as well, and he was only 15.
Nice.
He was at school the next day. Yeah.
You made him go in after doing that.
Yeah. That's a rock and roll story, yeah. So yeah, I'm really proud of that, and I would love to play with them again. Who knows? But because Ginger's got a new Wild Horse lineup now.
Yeah, I've seen.
So they're playing. I playing Newcastle in December, so I think I'll have to. Because I haven't seen the new lineup yet, so I might have to go and check it out.
I've never seen the Wildhearts play. I am a
It's,
fan, but I've just never seen them play. I don't know why.
Yeah.
You look disgusted, Peesh. You're like,
No,
how
no,
can you have not seen the Wildhearts, Marie? How dare you not?
Well, I first saw them in 1992. We were supporting the Manic Street Preachers at the Riverside in Newcastle. And I knew of Ginger when he was in the Choir Boys because I used to love the Choir Boys as well. So I thought, yeah, let's check out his new band. And they were great. They were noisy. They were chaotic. You knew there was something special there. There was such a noise, lots of riffs, I remember. And then I bought the debut EP from a local record shop like a few days later, and that was it. Fell in love with them. Oh, that is my band. So I've been a massive fan since 1992. And he's a genius songwriter, Ginger. He's my favourite songwriter because he's got lots of solo stuff. So I don't try to be like him, but I'm massively inspired by him because his writing output is just like phenomenal. He's got solo albums, side projects, Wildhearts. He's probably my biggest inspiration, really. It was other stuff that got me off the ground doing it, but always in the background, I wanted to be as kind of phenomenal as I wanted to be forceful in how much I had to put out there. I don't, when bands go away for 2-3 years and don't release anything, you're waiting for. I don't like that. I like bands to be creative. You know what I mean? Keep on putting stuff out all the time. I like that. I still like when older bands still put new stuff out. It's great to hear the old hits, but I like to hear something new to inspire me now. You know what I mean? The thing is, I mean, when we're doing gigs, I'm thinking, God, yeah, I'm in that bracket now. That older sort of bracket. But I'm sure that I did see quite a few young bands at Rebellion this year, but there is still a lot of the older bands are kind of at the top, which is great to see. But you also do want to see a lot of young bands. I mean, for example, when I say my son was playing and still plays in Logos now, but when he was in school, he was the only kid who had a guitar. I mean, in his whole school, I thought that was amazing. I was like, wow. When I was growing up, everyone wanted to be in guitars. But there was loads of people in bands aspiring to be musicians, but that didn't seem to be that in his generation.
Do you know it didn't seem to be like that when I was at school either? I got a guitar when I was 13, 14. I got my bike nicked.
Oh, wow.
And it's going somewhere. So my bike got nicked and it was insured. My dad he's a bit like, gets everything insured. And he said, oh, you can have a new bike. I said, you know what? I don't want a bike. I want a guitar. So I got a guitar. I got a guitar. Yeah, I got a guitar because someone nicked my bike.
You got something grateful for that before, really. But yeah, I also nicked my bike, otherwise I wouldn't get into music.
I know, but I don't play guitar anymore. I sort of, it's like with your drums, you sort of start on an instrument, you go over things. I prefer to play bass guitar.
Yeah.
And I started playing the ukulele. In fact, I like singing and singing with a band more than anything. Oh yeah, the Rick Mail festival, the comedy stuff.
Yeah, that was the thing. Is I've been a massive Rick Mail fan again because I used to watch the young ones with my parents. It used to be that show which your parents didn't used to let you watch, but my parents were quite young when I was young, so they used to watch it. So we used to watch it together. When I was like about 9-year-old, and we all used to talk about it at school as kids. So big Rick Mail fan growing up. I loved it. Always Bottle and the Young Ones, Bad News comic strip, his Rick Mail Presents series, everything great. But so this came about obviously because he died 11 years ago, and when we saw this festival that was happening in Droitwich, that's where he was born in Harlow but moved to Droitwich and grew up. So we've got the Harlow connection as well with
Yeah.
Bev, which is just great. It just seemed we thought we've got to do this, so we wrote a special set of Rick Mail songs. Well, Bev wrote a few and I wrote a few, and I recorded them all here, and we recorded Bev's vocals in the studio in Harlow, and then I brought the vocals back over. So we did a special new set, a new mini album of 7 songs for the Rick Mail Festival. And then we had to submit that, and thankfully they accepted us. So we did a few gigs. We did 3 gigs during that week in the Rick Mail Comedy Festival, and it was great because it was a bit different. We weren't playing in front of a punk audience or a music audience. It was a bit more different, and people were expecting to laugh. You know what I mean? Because there is a lot of humour a bit more humour in the Cherry and Peach stuff anyway. What we do, and Bev's a great performer anyway, and she's just instantly likable, and she's got a potty mouth in between songs, so she can make people laugh. She's got that spark, isn't she? And when we put all this together, it just really worked, and it was one of the best things I've ever done. I enjoyed it because it was completely different to doing punk rock gigs. It was a different kind of audience, and I just thought we're really proud of it. And it's back on next year as well, so we're going to apply. So I've already started writing a few new, want to add a few new songs as well, so it's not just the same act. So fingers crossed we'll get on again because I absolutely loved it. I loved that. Have you been to Droitwich?
No, I haven't. I was just about to ask what it's like.
It's like an almost old-fashioned in a way, and there was a lot of shops and a lot of old pubs, the old-style pubs. There wasn't Greg's or McDonald's. There was a lot of restaurants. There's a lot, it just seemed a bit almost old-fashioned, but in that nice sort of quaint English sort of style. I'd never really been anywhere like that for quite a while. Just like just a village, sort of just like that time forgot almost in a way. It was great though. We loved it. Everyone loved it who was there. Because there was so much going on that week. Because there was events on all day and all night, and people were dressed as Rick, and there was a little Rick Mail exhibition. And it was just such a good vibe, and the atmosphere, you could smell it. It was like everyone was just laughing, and it was like nothing I've ever been to. And I thought, I love it here. I really fell in love with it. And I met Peter Richardson as well from the comic strip, who I'm a big fan because he produced a lot of the comic strips and wrote a lot of the comic strips in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. And of course, he was in the band Bad News. He was the drummer Spider Webb. So we saw him in the street, and obviously I had to get the selfie. I couldn't resist it. And he was really sweet as well. And he was laughing because I was obviously a bit excited. And he was with his assistant actually, and she came to see one of our gigs, which is nice. He didn't come. I was gutted he wasn't there.
Oh.
I think he had bigger fish to fry because there was a big sort of there's a big theatre in Droitwich, and he was performing because Greg Davis was performing there as well. So there was a lot. We were doing the sort of fringe stuff in the pubs and clubs, but there was like a big, I forget the name of the it was a big theatre. And there was a lot of famous comedians, and he was on there doing the talk about Rick Mail and the comic strip.
We might see you next year.
I hope so. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. We're definitely applying for it. It's the end of May, start of June next year, so we'll get the applications in ASAP. Love to do it again. Yeah.
Yeah, it looked good, and it sounds fun.
Yeah. Again, it was just something completely different, and that's what I like about the doing things with Cherry and Peach. It's always something a little bit different. We've done some amazing, crazy gigs. We did one in a forest a few weeks ago. As you were there.
Yeah, I was. I was brilliant. That was great.
It was just in the middle of these woods, wasn't it? It was a bit odd, but it was completely
good.
Unplugged. But it was a great atmosphere, and it's great to do different things, and that's what I like doing with the Cherry and Peach things. I don't want to keep it. I don't really want to do the gigs what I do with my band. I like us when we go a little bit left field. A little bit out of my comfort zone. Because I think that pushes it. I like being on odd sort of lineups, with crazy bands because it works that way. It works better. I think our stuff comes across when the audience is a bit more, rather than just a strict punk rock audience, because they're a bit, fair enough. Sometimes punk rock audiences want some loud, uplifting, in your face music, and sometimes we offer something a bit different. It works sometimes. Sometimes it's, you know, sometimes not in sort of instances like that. But when we do these quirky gigs with with other spoken word artists and things like that, I think that really works. That's why it really worked at the Rickmail Comedy Festival, because there was some obscure music acts on with us as well, which were really weird but funny. So we didn't really look too strange there. It worked. It really worked.
Say if I'm in Newcastle and I want to go out for a night out. Say, where would I go? Like, where would I go see a band? Where would you recommend?
I mean, there's tons of places in Newcastle now. The weird thing is, there's that many places, but they're all different. They're all scattered about. I mean, a lot of places we play Trillions Rock Bar, which is great. It's in Princess Square, and just off Northumberland Street. So it's quite easy. It's if you ask someone, it's quite hidden away, but you would find it easily. That's a great rock bar. That's got like a great reputation. We played there a few weeks ago, Danny McCormack's band. It's about 200 capacity or something. You get some good bands in there. Most nights of the week, you got bands on there. That's the place I would recommend. But you got the Clooney's very good as well. They got the Clooney and the Clooney 2. There's a lot of bands on there. Billy Bootleggers is down there where there's bands on. So there's always stuff going on. I mean, you got your bigger venues like your NX, but they're big ticket things. But if you just want to sort of, not about in some bars, there's a lot of smaller places do a lot of gigs. I mean, you've got Gateshead, there's a Black Bull in Gateshead, which is just a short metro ride away. So there's a lot of gigs always going on. The Head of Steam, which is just opposite the train station, that always had bands on, but they don't seem to have regular nights on there. And just around the corner again from the train station, which is the Centre of Life, that's got Think Tank and Digital. And Digital is where the Wildhearts are playing in December. So even if you get in the train up or within walking distance, you've got venues all over the place. There's just so much going on in Newcastle now.
Yeah.
When I first started playing Jumpstart about 20 odd years ago, there was a little scene in there of a lot of the same bands playing the same gigs, but I don't think that seems to exist anymore, really. There's a big scene in Sunderland. There's a lot going on in Sunderland. There's a few record labels and stuff in there, and rehearsal spaces, studios, promoters. There's a big thing in Sunderland, which is where I do a lot of gigs with Monkey Blood, because Ian, my drummer who's in Slalom D, he's from Sunderland, so he's got a lot of connections there. So we get a lot over there as well. So like I was saying, there's tons of places to play. It's almost, you're spoiled for choice if you know the right people.
Yeah.
If you get to know these people, you can play you can really fill your boots with gigs.
Yeah, Fiona was telling me about Sunderland.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's city of music now, so that there's a lot going on. The fire station's bigger gigs on there. We played a pub gig at the Ivy House for the Pause for Thought animal charity. A few weeks ago, it was rammed. There was tons of money raised, so there's a big scene going on there. You know what I mean? And so they're always pop recs in Sunderland as well. The gigs seem to be always pretty well populated over there. There's a healthy scene. Whereas Newcastle, I think it's a bit more independent. I don't seem to find anywhere. But Trillions always gets you can get quite a good hardcore crowd of people coming to Trillions. We always pretty do well in there. So we're going to have Logos. We're going to have our new EP launch early next year as well. In Logos, I've known Paul since I was at school as well. So I've known Paul 40 years. So we go back a long way. Although I haven't been playing in bands that long, but we've been friends for a long, long time.
Yeah. You're in the same class at school?
No, he's two school years older than me. I always like to remind him that as well.
It's like Graham and Lorik, yeah.
Yeah, similarities there.
Oh, you're the Psycho radio show.
Yeah, I mean, I used to do one I used to try and do one every week. I started doing it for Radio Northumberland just over 10 years ago. And I used to do Anarchy in the USA, I used to call it. I used to do a 2-hour radio show of American punk every week. 2 hours, and I did it for about a year. and a bit every week with no repeated songs. So I was so spending loads of time. I think when I do something and I get my teeth into it, I want it to be the best I can possibly do. I don't like doing things half-assed. Do you know what I mean? Oh yeah, that'll do it. It's got to be fucking great. You know what I mean? And I think I wore myself out doing that. I was doing 2 hours a week every week, and I always do my shows from home. They're always pre-recorded. So I use Audacity software. So I just upload the tracks and I just
Yeah.
talk, and then I edit, spice it together. Again, it's pretty time consuming. But anyway, so I said, I want to do a different show, Psycho Radio show, because Psycho Radio was the name of Logo's first album. And I just thought that would work. Psycho Radio show, why not? They said, yeah, sure. Then I can just play anything I want. The American shows specifically punk rock in the USA. So this one's a bit more broad. I can put my mates' bands on. I can put American stuff, stuff from all around the world, British stuff, acoustic stuff, anything. So that's why I ended up doing that. But now, last year I was doing about one a month. But this year I've only done about four, I think. I did one last month, September, or this month, September. My last show earlier in the year was March. I've just been so busy.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is that they just allow me to do when I want. They're just like, yeah, whenever you can, which is really good because I thought my tell us just to get lost. Now, like, come on, you lazy bastard, you're not doing anything, But I wish I could do more, but it's just finding the time. Because I've got tons of bands I want to play, and sometimes I've done a few interviews and things before, and I quite enjoy it. But again, it's just finding the time, because you've got to fit my home life, my work life, and all the projects and bands in. So I just do it when I can. So I'm going to try and do one a month till the end of the year. So I've got a playlist for October. But if there's anything you want to hear, just if you want to hear Rage DC on the radio,
I will send you some requests. How did you get in with them though, with the Radio Northumberland people? How did you?
Well, there was this guy called Keith Newman, who does the New Wave with Newman radio show, and he had heard us from a mutual friend, and he said, would we come on the radio show? He used to play some of my demos before we'd even played Logo, so he was a massive supporter, Keith Newman. He was great. And then he was interviewing me one time. I was in the studio, and he said, you should do a radio show yourself. I said, well, how would I do that? And they keep asking us over the years if I wanted to do it live, but I didn't fancy doing it live. I quite like the safety of just pre-recording it so I can edit any little errors and stuff, because I don't want to be a DJ or anything. I enjoy doing little radio shows from home. So they said, yeah, you can have a show, and it was as simple as that, really. Because me and Cherry used to do one for a few radio shows, Totally Wired Radio. We had Poetry's the New Rock and Roll, which is Bev's idea again, which is great, about us talking about songs, just picking any song, some of our favourite songs, and we discussed the lyrics. And that was great. But again, I was doing 2 radio shows then, and I just didn't have time. And we went to another radio station because Totally Wired folded. But then they came back, but we'd already moved to another radio show, another radio station. And then a few times they kept messing up our shows. They kept putting the wrong show on. And I was just like, I'm working hard here, and these shows are getting wasted.
Yeah.
Because it was hours and hours of editing. I'm thinking, these shows aren't getting heard. They're making mistakes and making us look unprofessional in a way. And I was a bit disappointed with that. So I said, Bev, I haven't got time to do a radio show for some station which can't even get what's show on at the right time. I know that sounds a bit petty, but I was just a bit like, it happened about 4 times in a row. You know what I mean?
No, that'd piss anyone off. That'd piss me off.
When you spend hours and hours and hours, because we're doing research into songs, recording, and then I'm editing for hours afterwards, and I think, well, this is a waste of time, and I don't like wasting time. I mean, if we're going to do something, get it out there, do it properly. And
yeah,
they were just a bit slack, and I said, I can't be asked to do this. It's a shame because that idea for that show is a great idea.
But that'd annoy me. Maybe you could do it as a podcast instead, Peesh, instead of...
Yeah, well, that's what we spoke about. We said we do it as a podcast rather than having to rely on someone else. And we just do one whenever we want, get our own site, and just bang it up there when we've done it in our own time. Yeah. I think that will probably be... It would be beneficial for me and Bev if we could do it in our own time, because we had sort of deadlines for these ones. Right, it's got to be finished for this day, 2 or 3 days before the broadcast for the schedule. So sometimes we're racing against time a bit, Whereas if we can do it in our own time, yeah, Exactly. You're right. I mean, when I was joking around saying I've got to learn to say no, but I mean, I've said no a couple of times this week. I'm already doing a gig, sorry, I can't do it. No, I can't play drums in a band. So, I've said no twice in the last few days. So I'm getting better.
Yeah,
Trying to be more selective about the gigs. So I like to space the gigs out sometimes as well. Sometimes it's impossible to do. Sometimes they fall next to each other. And because if, in your local, if you're trying to push two local bands doing two local gigs on the same weekend, you may split your audience a bit, or people might go to one and not the other. And I kind of get that, but there's still enough people out there supporting music in the Northeast to make them all a kind of success. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But especially, I always find that the gigs in Sunderland are, I think, because there's a massive hardcore people go in Sunderland all the time. Big support there. Everyone supports each other, and it's great. There's a lot of young bands there as well, so they're all supportive of each other.
yeah, which is good. That's really good,
It,
actually.
it, it's
So
brilliant.
positive. I like
Yeah.
that.
There's a lot of people just live locally across the road, down the street. Whereas when we go to Newcastle, a lot of people got to travel to Newcastle.
Yeah,
I think a lot of travelling bands, when we support them in Newcastle, assume we're from Newcastle, but we're not. We're 20 miles north of Newcastle. So people come from all over the northeast when we play Newcastle to see us, which is massively appreciated. And they travel to Sunderland as well, something which is great.
does the metro go out to you guys, or is it?
No, but we've just entered the modern world by getting a train station. So, yeah, the, they took our commuting train line out 100 years ago. Just put it back in now. So I mean, you can get buses obviously, but yeah, you can get a train from Ashton to Newcastle, but it takes about 45 minutes. And they're both so different, Newcastle and Sunderland, which is great.
I was
Because
going to
there's
say
nothing
which
going
one do
on.
you prefer, but I better not.
Well, the thing is, well, no, well, I can't. Well,
You
my
can't
football team,
comment.
but I support Sunderland, so I'm a Sunderland supporter. I always have been, so I love Sunderland. So, but I love Newcastle as well. So that's great. Not the football team.
Well, what attracted you to the football team? Why Sunderland over Newcastle?
Because there was a lot of when I was growing up as a kid. When I mentioned Sunderland in the '80s, Sunderland and sorry, when I mentioned football, it was always half and half at school. It was Sunderland, Newcastle. It was very equal. A lot of my best mates, all our dads supported Sunderland. My dad supported Sunderland. And my best mate I was just out the weekend with, our best mate for 40 years. His dad supported Sunderland. It was a mixture because apparently at the turn of the 20th century, a lot of miners came from Sunderland to work in Ashton, and some of them ended up staying. So there's always been a big Ashton following of Sunderland supporters, always. Um, so that just became my team, and it didn't seem unusual. It was only when I got a bit older, I went to Sunderland, and people would say, "Well, you're a Geordie." I says, "Well, I'm not really Geordie. Well, I'm a Northumbrian. Well, I'm far from Ashton." But they said, "Why Sunderland?" I says, "Well, loads of them, we all supported Sunderland when I was at school. Well, it was half and half. It didn't seem like we were the black sheep or anything.
Yeah.
It was just normal. So it was only when my world got bigger and I got out a bit older and people thought it was strange. But I said, no, a lot of Ashton still is stuff. There's always a supporters bus goes from Ashton to the Sunderland games. So it still goes on now. I mean, it's more heavily towards Newcastle now.
So your family from Sunderland, or they all
No,
you're
no,
all from
we're
Ashington, or
all,
Ashington?
all from Ashton. And my great uncle was Jackie Milburn, who's the famous Newcastle United footballer who played for. There's a statue of him outside St James's Park in Newcastle.
Really?
But people always like, and you're so supporter. People can't believe it. I love telling people that story. They can't believe it. But sure, it's my grandma's brother.
Nice.
My dad carried his coffin at the funeral because there was a great big procession to Newcastle, Ashton to Newcastle when he died in 1988 because he's massively famous around here. But he was born in Ashton.
So when you played
Exactly.
Rebellion,
Yeah, the first time we couldn't believe it because we were on after Attila the Stockbroker, who was one of the most
fucking
famous
hell.
punk cut. Yeah. Oh yeah, and he had his instruments out and he had everyone in stitches. And we were like fucking shaking. And it was rammed in there. We were like, geez, this is. But the week before, we'd done a warm-up gig with the Newtown Neurotics. This was in 2008, and a punk duo. But one of the guys in the punk duo, acoustic, was Nigel Clark from Dodgy. And he loved us, and he came to see us, and he was a big support. He was posting on his social media saying, "Just seen the wonderful Cherry and Peesh," and wow, so he really supported us, in the early days, which was really sweet. I mean, we're in his little tour camper van thing as well afterwards, having drinks and things with him.
Nice.
And his mate Mark, yeah, that was nice. So we felt like, and Attila got on the mic afterwards and said, "Wasn't that amazing, everyone?" And we were like, "Wow, we must be doing something right." I think we peaked too early.
When was
No,
this? When did you play?
the first rebellion we did was 2008. No,
Okay.
2018. Sorry, I'm going back too far
2018.
now. 2018 was the first one we done. Then we played every one. Then even there was a 2020 lockdown one, which we did by Zoom, so we could perform there. Then there was a scaled down version in 2021 as well, where it was just one day, 1 or 2 days at Rebellion. It was quite empty because it was social distancing. It was a bit weird, but we still did that one as well. So this year, 2025, was the first year Cherry and Peach hadn't performed at Rebellion since 2018. So, but Bev still did a lot on the literary stage this year.
Yeah.
And she's very good at that, very good at interviewing. So you have to get yourself there next year.
Yeah, I would like that because I obviously didn't make it this year.
There's just so much going on. You never, you are spoiled for choice. You're never bored. There's like a band here's a band there, and it's all
Yeah.
under one roof. And there's loads of things outside Rebellion, on the fringe. There's gigs, bars, pubs, clubs, putting stuff on all weekend. Well, all weekend from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But I think they're extending it next year because it's 30-year anniversary as well. So I think they're starting it on the Monday or Tuesday or something like that. So it's going to go on like all week. So that's going to be harder work than it.
Yeah,
But
I'd like to go again.
hopefully we'll be able to play that. And hopefully get one of the bands on Logos and Monkeys Club. That would be great. Because I've never played there as a band, which would be nice. And it's quite frustrating because we played with a lot of the bands who do play there. We play with them, play with these, but sometimes, again, they get a lot of applicants and there's thousands of bands want to play there.
Yeah.
So it would be nice one day to do one of the main stages. I would love that. Thank you again. Yeah, been a
Yeah.
pleasure. I look forward to it getting edited and just send me a link and we'll start sharing it.
Okay, cool. That was Peesh. We were the Punk Rock Creators podcast. Thank you for listening. See you next time.